Honestly, I don't care that this is going to sound bad. This is my first video. I don't need to be an expert at this. I just did a whole video on it. Social skills and what inhibits you from developing them. I'm basically just going to be retracing what I've already said. But now I've actually talked about it, so I know where to go. Instead of doing all this back and forth, retracing my steps, I'm just going to give it to you in a somewhat coherent method. So, let's give a little backstory. This is going to make it a little bit more impactful, a little bit more relatable. But so to start from the top, my social skills at one point were pretty alright without developing them just naturally. I wasn't say social person, but I wasn't hard to talk to. And at the beginning of high school, I connected with the wrong people. They were very awkward people. They weren't bad people, but they kept bringing each other down. And I didn't realize what I'd done to myself until the end of high school. And I started putting myself out there more. Not necessarily putting myself out there more, but connecting with different people that did have social lives, social standings. And I found myself talking to more people, having more fun with my own time. But I was still that same awkward person. And then I joined the military, and I was just surrounded a lot more people. I was talking more, but I didn't know why. I didn't know. It was just like because I was around people, I was talking more. It wasn't really on myself. So when I found myself situated in the actual military, I fell right back into those bad habits, isolating myself from others, staying in my room all day long. And it got to the point to where it started affecting my mental health. I was finding myself very insecure that I couldn't talk to people. And with these types of insecurities, when you find one, you find a lot. So I started working on them one by one. First was physical. I didn't like how I looked. So, and it wasn't that I didn't like how I looked, but I didn't like there was no discipline on what I did. If I was going to improve my social standing, I needed to improve who I was. And that ties into reduced self-hatred. When you hate yourself, or you hate something about you, it's going to reflect in how you talk to people. And we as humans are very talkative people. And us being conscious, our mental health reflects in our conversation, even if it's not about that. So I had a lot of insecurities, so I couldn't talk to others how I wanted to. I couldn't have fun talking to others, and I thought that I didn't have fun talking to others because I just wasn't a social person. That's not true. The introverted extroverted thing, me personally, I don't believe is true necessarily. I think some people don't talk as much as others, me included, but that does not mean you are introverted. That just means you can't project yourself as much. Give or take, there's definitely exclusions to this or outliers to this, but for the general population, including you, it is not that you're not a talkative person, it's that you don't think highly of yourself to be a talkative person. You do not think you can be a talkative person. And when you reduce these self-hatreds, let's give an example. So let's say you're very insecure about your room and you think the standard is to have a clean room, you're going to conclude that this is a malfunction of you, and malfunctions of the self are insecurities. If you work to improve your messy room, you're going to find that that insecurity is no longer there. There's no reason to not join with others. I know it's a bad example, but it could be how you dress too. If you don't think you dress good or up to the standard, you're not going to go outside as much because you think you're going to stand out in front of others because the way you dress. If you just improve how you dress, you're going to be more comfortable, more confident going outside. And another, get out of your head when talking to others. Don't think about these insecurities when you're talking to people. And because as long as you're improving them, you're not really going to think about it. You're going to think, I'm doing something to improve. And even though people won't mention it, they're going to, oh, this person dresses a lot better than what they used to. And it's going to help the conversation flow. Just thinking that when you talk to people, they see that you're dressing better, just thinking that is going to improve your confidence. A malleable, something you can actually improve without doing stuff that other people can't see is when you go out, say things that you wouldn't normally. And I don't mean say something out of the blue or say a joke that only your niche friends would find funny. I mean, like, let's say you have to go to the gas station. Normally, they might be, how's your day going? Oh, it's pretty good. You'd buy your food and then you leave. Next time, if someone asks that, ask, oh, how's your day been going? Oh, it's been pretty good. I got a promotion at work today. That is something that brings something to the table. And it's something you wouldn't normally do. And if you keep doing this more and more, you're going to find that it's a part of your vocabulary. It's a part of how you talk. And people are going to see that and they're like, oh, this person's a lot more sociable than I thought. And they're going to want to come up to you and talk. And when they do come up to you and talk, that's first point we're looking at. Listen to what others are saying. A lot of the times when you're having these conversations, you're only projecting what you want to say, right? You're only trying to nudge into the conversation. If they say something, oh, what do I want to say to reply to this? No. Don't do that. Instead, listen to what they're saying. If they talk about something, listen to it, and you're going to find that what they say and what they want to say are not totally different, but it's not what they want to say is when you find out what they want to say, it's a lot easier to move the conversation forward. So an example would be, let's say someone's talking about Brawlhalla. They're like, oh, I really love Brawlhalla. They might want you to say, they might want you to play with them, right? They might want someone to play with them. Or something along those lines. And when you do all of these things, you're going to find that your days have been changing. I like to rock climb. And I found that, like, before, if I would have went there, I would have been super nervous, wouldn't have talked to nobody. I mean, it's still kind of like that. But on my second day going there, I was having trouble with, like, the beta, that's what they call it. I was finding the beta for this move. So I asked somebody, hey, can you, like, how do I start this? Like, how do I get to that final hold? And he kind of walked me through it. And for the entire time I was there, which is maybe an hour because I just started, so I fatigue very fast. The entire time I was there, I was talking to them, which something I would have normally done if I didn't just do something that I wasn't so comfortable with, saying that, oh, can you help me? That's something I wouldn't have normally said, but now it is. And when you do these, you're gonna find other people come up to you and help you because you're gonna be more approachable. People are not gonna approach you if you do not approach other people, if that makes sense. And all of these things, they improve your um, day to day, and you're gonna find that not just this one thing is going to change. Other things are gonna move around. Like another example of mine was, I think the following day I was going to the barbershop and I found someone that I'd seen at work and I really talked to, and I went up there and I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we had a little. It wasn't like a long conversation, but it was a good conversation. So another point I brought up in the other video that didn't make it through was that long conversations are not good conversations. So let's say this probably happens to you when you're talking to somebody. They're just telling you how their day went, and that's all they're doing. They don't want to hear how your day has been, and that is someone you don't want to be like. Use those real world examples of the people you don't like talking to because they talk way too much. Use those as something. Use those as an example of what not to do. And they just kept going on, and I didn't really say anything because he just kept talking and talking and talking, and I just didn't care. And that's how people think when you talk and talk and talk. They just don't care, right? So don't think that, oh, these tiny little things are meaningless. They're good conversations. So, and I'm not saying that long conversations can't be good, because when you're talking to people like your friends, people at work, those long conversations are good, or really can't. Most of the time they're good, right? As long as you or them are not too overbearing. So these little conversations are very important. To the overall. A more relatable way of putting it is, if you want to get a muscle up, you're gonna have to do a lot of pull-ups. You can't get a muscle up without doing pull-ups or dips. So think about it like this: when you're doing when you're talking to these people at the gas station or at Walmart or stuff like that, you're just doing pull-ups, and your goal is to get a muscle up. Eventually, you're gonna get that muscle up, and it's gonna feel so good when you get it. So all these little conversations are eventually gonna lead to a friend out of these random conversations, and that's gonna feel so good when you can develop a friend. When you can develop a friend out of a tiny little conversation, it's gonna feel so good. Even though I haven't actually, I have the rock climbing. That was a good example. That was like 5 months of shitty work, but shitty work is better than no work. It's kind of like it's better to be late than to never show up. You know what I'm saying? But if anybody is looking at this, let me think of a question that I want to ask that I need help with. Because self-improvement is, get it wherever you can, you know what I'm saying? Self-improvement in the right direction can be bad, but for the most part, improvement, right? You're improving something, so it's got to be good. Let me think. How do I, it's a little putting myself out there, it's kind of awkward. How do I develop closer relationships with females? What I've been doing now is, when I talk to females, I have to tell myself this is their friend, right? So for a romantic interest, it's a little bit harder for me because in the back of my head I'm thinking about the end goal. But and it shows, right? Those type of things show in the conversation. But I've been pretty successful at it with developing a female friend, like at work. There's a female that had been working there for a while, and I was kind of like, I didn't know how to approach them, but I thought, if I just think of this as a normal friend, I can talk to them, and it's a really good I find that they're a very good friend. Maybe not, could be, no. I want to say one of the closest, but it's not really, because that's not what I want out of it, if that makes sense. But how do I talk to girls that I'm interested in instead of just, this is a friend, because I can't go above that because it's a limit for me. And I'm not saying it's not a hard limit, but it's hard to maintain that limit, if that makes sense. Like, it's not hard to tell myself that, oh, this is a friend, but it's hard to stop myself from moving on. Not moving on, but trying to get more than that, if that makes sense. So I have to keep telling myself, this is a friend, this is a friend. Don't blah blah blah. Don't catch feelings. This is a friend. But how do I talk to girls that I don't just want to be friends, if that makes sense? But having said all that, I hope you took something from this. I'm gonna try to make more videos because it's something I've wanted to do for a while. I thought about it, then I saw videos. I was like, oh, I could have been doing this. So now I am doing it. And if you're watching this, just leave a comment about that last question, or just your thoughts. I'm not an expert, but I could help you, as well as you could help me with my issues. You know what I'm saying? But having talked about all that, I hope you'll have a good day. Hope you're improving 1% every day. Kind of cheesy, but totally true.